G'day legends, welcome back to another Escape From Tarkov Arena video. Today boys, I'm covering the ultimate movement guide. We're covering everything from inertia, jump shotting, sprinting, peeking, free looking, even baiting, many different movement mechanics we're all covering today. Heads up, everything will be time-stamped in the description below, so if there is something you're already aware of, just keep skipping through the video because we are covering a lot of points today, both basic and advanced tips. Make sure you guys like the video if you boys are having a good day or you find anything in this video useful. Make sure you are subscribed because we are pumping out a heap of arena content. And lads, if you want to see this movement live, come through on my Twitch or the YouTube. We are live most nights. Let's get straight into it, boys. The first thing we're looking at today is how inertia affects the movement within Escape From Tarkov Arena. If this is something you guys are already aware of, feel free to stop and continue through under the timestamps in the description. Everything's listed for anything that you want to know more about. Let's get straight into it. So the first thing is understanding that inertia involves your character having to slow down before it can change direction, okay? As you guys can see, there's a slight delay when I'm moving right and left. But in the overlay of my keyboard, you can see there is no delay between me hitting A and D. The character, you can watch the laser here, how the laser stops in one spot before it changes direction. This same thing is when moving forward and backward, as well as sprinting, as well as left, right, backward, forward. So this is something we have to account for when moving around the map and engaging in gunfights. There are certain tricks and tactics we're going to cover today to overcome the effects of inertia. The first thing we're looking at today is a circle peek and a standard peek. So the standard peek being a AD peek. So we're going to swing the corner here. As you can see, you're quite in the open. It's quite risky. You want to pre-fire the A key before you're fully exposed to the corner. What this means is when I'm swinging here, I'm hitting the A key, as you can see, before I've fully peeked the corner. This allows me to prevent myself from all the way swinging out and only showing the right side of my body. So it's a quick peek, it's just in and out, in and out, in and out, and it's a quick way to check for information, but also to not fully expose your body. Another way we can peek here is a circle peek, which involves a W, A, S, and D, which looks something like this. This allows you to overcome inertia as it is constant movement, which allows you to do a circle peek. Another thing you can add on to the standard AD peek and the WASD circle peek is a lean mechanic. This adds an extra depth to the peek. Another thing we're going to look at today is the use of crouch peeking. This is about the height of your head when crouching. This is about the height of your head when standing. Let's just say we run inside this building here and there's an enemy in the open just here. From his perspective, he's going to watch you run in there. Maybe he lands a few shots. He's now going to pre-aim from here to wait for your head to re-swing. Okay, what you're going to do instead is peek from a crouch level. As you can see, you're only just visible from the holographic as the bottom of the holo blocks the bottom part of your body, which can cause an enemy to not see you or only just see the top of your head, where he then has to transfer his aim down instead of at the head level. So let's just say we run in here, he shoots us a few times, we then crouch and we re-peek. And he will not expect it because by the time he's reacted to see, oh, he's crouched, he's probably going to die. Okay, so it's something I want you guys to incorporate into your peeks, whether it's a standard AD peek, or if it's a circle peek, or if it's a crouch peek. The crouch peek involves you hitting A and D and then adding a lean at the end as well, like this. Another thing I want to show you guys is how to jump shots. The first thing we're going to explain is how a jump shot works. You need to hit W shift into a sprint to then jump into a regular jump. So it involves going W shift, spacebar, letting go of shift and hitting another jump standard, okay? So it's a sprint jump into a regular jump. This is then combined with obviously the muzzle placement, which can land you kills and allows you to be super agile and enemies will not be suspecting your character model to be flying through the air. So this can be done in any direction, forwards, left, right, and backwards. All you need to do is incorporate a W shift jump, letting go of shift, and then jumping once you've hit the ground, okay? This can be done again on the left, hitting the same thing, and hitting the A key. This can be done on the right, hitting the D key. This can be done again, hitting the S key. And what this also does is, as you guys can see while I'm sprinting and I jump, my barrel is facing the ground. So see how I'm shooting the ground? What this allows is for your barrel to be rated up, centered. In this game, when jumping, as you guys can see, the gun shoots where the barrel's pointing. So we manipulate the sprint jump to gain momentum, to then jump normally, to ready up the weapon to be able to shoot at the target. the first thing we want to be looking at is timing the jump. So commonly what you'll find is people will misjudge the timing of the jump shot, leaving themselves in the open with their gun down, getting killed. So let's just say this is the enemy here. Let's say the edge of the truck here is a wall. Pretend the taillight here is a wall. So anything past the taillight is visible. Anything to the right of it is invisible, is like a block. What we're going to do is try and time the jump to be about here, so that we're moving into the sideways jump just before we hit the opening. For example, you're going to want to try and jump like this, land, and then coming out of cover while in the air suspended. The contrary to this is you do not want to land in the open like this, because what this does is your enemy is now able to shoot you for about this whole period here with your gun facing the ground, like you'll see here. If I'm going to jump again, see how my gun was facing the ground after the first jump, the sprint jump here. This whole area, my gun is facing the ground. So you want to try and time it so that when you're peeking the corner, your gun is readied up. Another thing to note is when moving in position, you want to try and time the jump so that you're not hitting your head on anything, because a big problem in this game is the ceiling height. As you guys can see here, if you want to try and hit a jump shot and hit your head, it's not going to be very useful. So you want to make sure you're checking ceiling heights as well as door frames. Let's say this is an open roof on both sides, but this is just the door frame here. If you're landing about here and you're beginning to jump up, you will hit your head and come straight back down, just like that, which will not be ideal. So it's something you need to note when jump shotting, is keeping an eye on the roof. Another thing I want to talk about is the jump length is directly proportional to how long you sprint for. So for example, I'm going to sprint jump from this grate here all the way to the end, okay? And I'm going to do it in a straight line. So this is building momentum. The charge up period of inertia is between 1 and 2 seconds. So if you're able to run in a straight line for about 1, 2, and then jump, you guys can see this is about where we landed, okay? Let's just say I do a stagnated jump where I'm hitting A and D keys and not keeping my mouse in a straight direction. And we'll just show that in comparison. We'll have a shorter run up period here. So as you guys can see, the jump is much shorter when a short period of sprint is allowed before the jump. So if you're wanting to jump further, you want to have a slight time to gain inertia before jumping, which will allow you to jump further than that of a stagnated sprint jump where you're just kind of jumping around in that. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay, a great thing to note now is to incorporate free looking while running. So let's just say there is an opening here and we have an enemy in this corner here. Let's say I'm running across an opening and I have looked across and I see him. This now gives me information that otherwise I would have been sprinting in a straight line looking in front of me and I would have had no idea there's an enemy to my right. So get used to running around the map or moving around the map using your swivel. What this now does is if I've seen an enemy there, I have now the option to re-swing him and pre-fire him. Not just that, I can also crouch peek him. At the same time, when sprinting across an opening or jump sprinting like this, the enemy may have seen me, he's holding an angle like this, and he's seen me jump across and he might become to sprint after you, and his gun might be down at this period, and you might be able to re-swing him and catch him unsuspecting. So it's something you guys need to incorporate into your gameplay, is learning to look at the side of your head, to check doorways while running across. It's an easy way to incorporate it, because like I said, the contrary to that would be running in a straight line and getting shot from and not knowing where you got shot from. Whereas this way you get intel while moving around. It's very effective and very important for newer players to start to incorporate holding down middle mouse while sprinting, or running across an opening and jumping while looking to the side. Another thing you guys want to start to do is hitting a bait peek, barrel baiting. So as you guys can see, let's pretend there's an enemy in this corner here. What you can do is push your barrel over the edge of the corner and you might see the enemy shoot you. So if I'm peeking from this corner here and I'm seeing a barrel peek, I might start to shoot before they've peeked. This now gives you the intel, okay, now there is an enemy in this corner. Another thing you can do is hit a WS peek, which is where you're moving directly forward and backwards, incorporating a side peek as well, like this. Okay, and you want to roughly time it so that you're not fully exposing yourself. It's just a great way to gain intel, because the contrary to this is swinging like this. You're much more exposed and it's much easier for you to get killed than if you're to do something like this. Get a short peek of intel in and out. Another thing you can do is a sprint audio bait, which is where you're sprinting into the wall and the enemy might think you're about to swing. You can combine this with a barrel bait where they begin to pre-fire you and then you might be able to sprint. They might start to pre-fire you again when you hear them reload. swing and kill them. Try and add a sprint bait to bait their audio. As you guys know how bad the audio can be in this game. If you're hearing the enemy sprint, you don't know when they're going to peak, and then eventually you can swing that with the momentum. One other thing we're going to talk about today is Ferrari peaking. This is where you gain momentum out of a sprint and then swing a corner. It gives you an extra amount of movement speed when swinging a corner, which makes it harder for the enemy to track you. As you guys just saw there, it's something I do like 360s on the spot, and then coming out of the corner. Compare that to just a standard walkout. It's slightly faster, and it just allows you that extra movement speed. Another thing I want to explain to you guys is combining a sprint jump and moving the right mouse. So if you're just holding W and shift and then jumping, you can carry this momentum all the way through the map, no matter what way you're looking, okay? So it's something, if you're wanting to combine a jump, let's just say I'm wanting to jump from this sandbag here onto the table. Another thing I want to explain to you guys is there's air control while sprint jumping. So let's use this example on the top just here, okay? I'm going to do a standard W shift jump, okay? Where it's just me sprinting and jumping. I land at the end of the plates here, okay? Compare this to a jump where I'm hitting the backwards key mid-air, okay? Where I'm sprinting, a jump, and then I hit S. I'm gonna do it again. Watch again. I hit W shift jump and then hit the backwards key. I jump not as far. Compare this to me holding down W and shift all the way through the jump. I jump much further. So it's just something to note. If you're wanting to control how far you're jumping, you can hit the backwards key mid-air and control how far you're moving through the air. Another thing I want to add to the movement tips is when you're crouched behind a head glitch, and let's just say your barrel overbore, your barrel is currently hitting the table in front of you or the box, and you're wanting to, let's just say shoot this enemy here. What you can do, instead of holding down C and increasing the crouch height, what you can do is use the Strafe ability, which will move the barrel of your gun up above cover. So if I see an enemy here and I start to move left, and it allows you to pull the barrel above, and then as soon as you stop shooting, you look down. And this pretty much, the look down method also is a hitbox change. So the enemy, your head now moves lower down, and it also protects your head because the only exposing angle of your head now is armored. That's if you're wearing a helmet. It'll now be only armored. They will not have flesh. So it's a great combination to use if you're shooting someone behind a heady. Move right, shoot them, and let's say you need to peek down, reload, looking down at the ground, keeping your head behind cover, and then let's just say looking back up and standing up and then re-swinging them for whatever. It's something you guys can do instead of holding down C and changing the crouch height. You can just strafe left and right and it will hold the barrel above the cover. Another thing I want to quickly mention is heavier kits will make you slower and change your rate of inertia. Heavier armor, heavier guns will make you move slower and have less stamina than the lighter kits, okay? Another thing I want to talk about quickly is stims and the effect of stims in gunfights, okay? I'm going to roll a clip now, and it's where I use a enforcer kit with morphine. What happens is I run out of stamina, even though just before I got shot, I had well over half stamina. What happens is when you get legs blacked, you lose stamina, okay? Using the Tramadol stim prevents this from ever happening. No matter how bad you get shot in the legs, you will always have stamina remaining, okay? What will happen here in the clip, I got shot in the legs and I was unable to run to cover, and therefore I got shot and killed. If you have Tramadol active, this prevents you ever getting caught in the open, getting your stamina drained from being shot, and allows you to get to cover quickly. Okay, it's a stim that I highly recommend you use. Not everyone has to use it, but if you're a movement player that likes to run around like me and jump shot and move around and be agile, I would highly recommend it. Keybinds. I would avoid putting lean binds on your mouse button because you want to allow the right hand to focus on its grip to perform the best aim possible. If you're having to move your hand off all the time to change your lean, it can change your aim and cause you to be inconsistent in gunfights. I would much prefer for you guys to have your lean buttons on your keyboard, whether that's swapping Q and E or having it as C and V or something other than on your mouse. If it's personal preference and you prefer it and you've gotten used to it, that's fine. But I see too many people changing their hand grip and it affect their aim and say, oh, I missed him because I was hitting my lean button and I started aiming funny. Another thing I would say is avoid having your sprint and crouch button close together. Some people have their crouch button on control. This is an easy button to accidentally hit. Let's say you're in a gunfight and you're shooting and then accidentally hit the crouch button and now all of a sudden you're moving at half speed. It's something you want to avoid accidentally hitting mid gunfight. So try and space out the keybinds that can cause a large movement difference, okay? Another little tip is, on top of all the other things like we talked about, like barrel baiting, like sprinting into walls, what you want to do is try and get them to shoot and pre-fire you a few times. When you start to notice that they're low on ammo and they're going to reload, that's when you can feel free to key them and kill them. I've gotten a lot of kills, especially smaller maps like Equator. An extra tip I want to let you guys know is if you're sprint jumping, you will jump further, but not as high. If you're standard jumping, you will jump higher, but not as far as well. So there is a height change to your jump when sprint jumping. Another thing you guys can do is strafing immediately after your jump shot. So let's just say I hit a jump shot. You instantly start to strafe right again. This causes you to become a very hard target to hit. So jump shot, and then I'm instantly moving right as I land, okay? This prevents me being a standard target, standing still after my jump shot. Like let's say I've jumped, and I'm just stuck here, and then it takes a second. If you're already hitting that key expecting to come out of a jump, it allows you to escape that direction, because if someone's tracking you and they're watching you jump across, and then all of a sudden you're moving in the opposite direction, you're much harder to hit than someone that goes like jumping in the same direction and then keeps moving in that direction. One more thing is right hand peaks are king. Let's say you're in a 1v1 situation. You're going to win a gunfight more times if you're swinging off the right shoulder than if you are on the left. It just comes down to the recoil control and the ADS speed and gun control in general. Off the right shoulder is much better. I'm now going to demonstrate the difference between left and right hand shoulder peaking. For those who aren't aware, I'm going to go from a sprint to ADS speed and show the difference. So this is a right hand shoulder peak to ADS. Right hand shoulder peak to ADS. Now we're going to switch to the left hand side. Left hand shoulder sprint to ADS. Left hand shoulder sprint to ADS. Go again. Left hand shoulder sprint to ADS. As you can see, the gun comes to the side and then readies up. It's a very awkward ADS on the left shoulder. The only time you should be using the left hand shoulder tuck is before you swing a left hand peak. So you do not want to be swinging it hip and then ADSing. You want to try and pre-aim before you begin to swing. And this is only for moving around a corner on your left side, okay? The reason for this is camera angles. I'm going to quickly demonstrate the purpose. So right hand shoulder peak right here, we can see this enemy here. If I switch my gun to my left shoulder, I can no longer see that enemy. The same rule applies for the left hand peak as well, okay? I can see an enemy here on my left shoulder. If I switch the gun to my right shoulder, I can no longer see the enemy. If you're swinging a left hand peak, you want to aim down sight before you begin to swing the corner. And if you're swinging a right hand peak, you want to have the gun tucked to your right shoulder before you swing that corner. Just to finish up, I just want to make a few comments. Obviously, movement's all well and good, but if you can't hit heads, you're going to struggle, okay? The biggest thing in Arena is aiming. Now, it's headshot meta, so you always want to aim for the head, no matter who you're shooting at. You always want to try and aim head, unless for the rare occasion you're running flesh ammo, you're shooting legs, like rip ammo, things like that. But for the most part, you want to always try and aim ahead, okay? This game relies on you hitting your shots. If you're going to be all fancy dancy doing movement and all this kind of jump shot stuff, and you can't hit your shots, it's not going to be effective. So at the end of the day, if you are struggling in Arena and you want to get better, I'd highly recommend using aim training, using the shooting range, and practice your aim, guys. Spend 5 minutes, spend 10 minutes just to practice your aim before you go in. Just giving yourself that extra bit of assistance before you're going into the game will assist you. Another thing people don't realize enough is when you're playing the game and like just la-di-da-di playing it, you know, you're not really focusing on shooting people in the head. You're kind of just shooting the boxes in front of you. I want you guys to actually focus on hitting heads, and your gameplay will improve massively. I think for a lot of players that are more casual, that kind of just jump on and play for the sake of it, if you actually go into each round and specifically look for the enemy's heads and run around the map and be like, oh, there's a head, oh, I'm shooting that, instead of running around and be like, oh, there's a person there, it'll win you more gunfights if you're trying to hit the heads instead of just chest, okay? Another thing that we want to talk about quickly is point firing. I know we talked about it a bit during the jump shotting phase, but it just comes down to practice. I would recommend you guys running a laser sight on your gun. Often I will not run it because it costs a lot of meta points, but for newer players that are not good at their screen centering or point firing, I'd recommend you guys running a laser sight. It helps you identify where the muzzle's facing. Once you get better at it, feel free to turn it off, and then you'll get better at hip firing as well. Definitely something I'd recommend you guys to try out. And at the end of the day, guys, try and be unpredictable. It's hard because obviously we want to just swing everything. I'm terrible for it, as you guys know. I just W key everything. But if you're versing good players, they're just going to expect you to swing things. So try and play smart. Try not to always ego chell everything, and play with some of the things I've talked to you today. And feel free to drop a comment below if there's something you guys want to add. I'm always here to open up the conversation for you guys if there's anything else you want to add to the guide today. Anything you want help with if you're struggling with anything as well. Even if there's a comment if you like what you've seen today, if you learned something. I appreciate you all watching today. Again, boys, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We're punching out a heap of arena content. And don't forget, I am live on Twitch and YouTube. So come check me out live, lads. I'd love to see you come through and say g'day. And make sure you like the video, boys. It helps the algorithm, helps me, helps get this channel out there to more people that enjoy arena just like you. I appreciate you all. Have a blessed day, boys. And if you're liking arena, check out my channel. I got a heap of custom presets, montages, all the rest. So make sure you guys have a look. Cheers.